You're listening to Life FM. It's Maz for the drive home. And we started this new segment recently called Building for Life. Well, we've got the guys back in from Dornford Building Group, Nico and Jake, here to chat with us about building. Guys, how's it going?
Fabulous, Maz. It's been awesome.
Doing well, thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. We've started this segment about building, and it's an industry that I know absolutely nothing about, and I imagine a lot of people listening would be in the same boat. So it's really interesting to hear sort of these discussions. But today we're actually talking about something that would be relevant to a lot of people. Building with kids in mind, or, you know, families, and maybe starting a family or growing a family, and keeping the building plans in mind for that. Jake, do you want to kick us off with what you need to keep in mind when it comes to looking at building for a family?
Yeah, sweet. So we have a lot of our clients are coming to us. They've either got one kid, two kids, growing families, about to start to have kids. And the reason why we wanted to bring this topic up was we wanted people to think about their home and what it's going to be like in the future.
Yep.
Where are their kids going to be when they're 30? Are they still going to be at home? Are they going to be able to afford a new home? So one thing we try and tell our clients is, hey, when we are designing a house, if we're designing 4 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms with 3 lounge rooms, we want to have one room to be, I'd say, like maybe a playroom, and then we tell them, hey, this can be turned into a study in 3 years' time when your kids are teenagers, or obviously it's not 3 years from 3 to 6, but we want to have versatile. We want to have like versatile rooms that can change and adapt as the family grows and goes on.
I think it's that concept of creating spaces that grow with your family. So building in that flexibility. So it's not just thinking about, you know, where you are in the next 5 years, but thinking further ahead 10,
which is 20. Interesting. Like I wouldn't have even crossed my mind to think about it that way. I guess you buy a place, or you're building a place for what you need now, but you don't necessarily think about, what are my kids going to be doing in 20, 30 years? Are they still going to be at home? Really good questions. And particularly with, you know, the way property is at the moment, a lot of kids probably will still be at home in the next 30 years.
We are finding it's a lot more expensive, obviously. Everyone knows that property prices have gone up, interest rates have gone up.
Yep.
And that's making it a lot harder for people to get into the market, but it's also making it a lot harder for people to move.
Yes.
So if people need more space, that's why extensions are becoming so, I guess, popular.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people love where they live.
Yeah.
They love the area they're in, their kids are in school, whatever it may be, but they do need that extra space.
So extensions are a popular way for people to go these days when, you know, like you say, they're already enjoying where they are. They have good neighbours. They're happy with 100%. The location. Maybe it's close to school for the kids and that sort of thing. It's good. So they don't want to pack everything up and leave. But also it can be more cost effective to actually extend rather than to buy a bigger place as well.
Correct. So, around the costing, when you engage a builder, or if you're thinking about extending or doing a new home, you really want to weigh up the cost. And then one thing I forgot to mention was, when you want to do an extension, you need to make sure the house is going to be able to handle an extension. Is the house too ran down? Is it going to be more worthwhile to build a new home? Because if you're doing an extension, it costs you $500,000, $600,000. It might be better off building a new home, knocking down and building a new home. But
is that the average sort of figure around it? Because I guess in my head I'm kind of like, if you're just putting in an extra room, it'd probably be like maybe $100,000 or $200,000 kind of thing.
Correct. So
it depends on how much.
It definitely depends on the square meterages of how much you're doing. But the average job for when we're extending a master suite or doing a master bedroom with ensuite, walk-in wardrobe and a study, it's usually around that 220, 230, 240 grand sort of mark.
Which is still a lot of money. That's quite a bit for just
but to sell a house and then move somewhere,
it's also very expensive.
It's going to be way more expensive to do that.
Yeah. So I guess it's about weighing up those different options. And I mean, it's good to hear that a lot of people are taking up that option of extension, because I guess it just makes life easier, particularly if you've got a growing family. Like, to pack up and move everything would be hard enough as it is, but then with kids as well, like, I can imagine it's pretty challenging.
It is. That is challenging.
So we find that some of the benefits, like you've sort of touched on it, is, hey, you don't have to move. But when you're extending, it is also uncomfortable to stay in the house. There's noise, there's dust, there's people walking in and out of your yard. We do try and separate it as much as possible. But when people do extend, it is something that we say, hey, look, there's a lot of unknowns when you open up existing walls, when there's things that we can't see in until we actually take them out.
Yep.
So that's something that we warn all of our clients, hey, look, make sure that, you're not over stretching yourself when it comes to your budget.
Yep.
Make sure that you keep it 10-15% contingency, because there's always things once you start opening up the ground, once you start opening up walls, there's things that pop up that we couldn't have foreseen, and that leads to variations. And so if your budget was, let's just say 400,000, and then all of a sudden 10% of that's 40,000, that's quite a lot of money.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot to consider when it comes to looking at what the future is going to hold for your family. If you know that it's just going to be you and your partner and you don't have plans to have kids, then, that's one thing. But if you're thinking about it, or if you've already got kids and you might have more, like keeping in mind some of the different options for, maybe room to extend. Because with extensions, you also have to, now forgive my ignorance, but do you have to also go through like council approval?
Yeah, 100%.
And all of that sort of side of it?
Yeah, so you definitely have to go through council if you're adding a pergola even. So
Wow.
any changes to the house, technically you're meant to go through council even if you're removing a wall inside the house.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of
I didn't know that.
red tape, regulations around it, and it can be a fairly extensive process. Extensions can often cost around $20,000 just to design. So there's a fair bit of work involved in getting that all ready. But one thing that you did mention was, if you're thinking about designing a house, if it's just you and your partner, I think one thing to look at, even if you're not considering, a growing family, or your family's grown up and they're moving out, thinking about accessibility features, like as you age, make sure that you've got provisions for grab rails. You might not put them in the bathroom, but it's very cost effective to do the provisions while you're doing the build, making sure doorways are a bit wider, just little things, accessibility features to make sure that your house is livable for, years to come.
Yeah, planning for the future in that sense, so that, you've got, like you say, the availability to put those things in later on. Really interesting. Things that I would never have thought about. Never. Like, just opening up my eyes in this industry, and it's really, really interesting. So thanks for coming in again, guys, and for chatting.
It's been great to be here.
What are we going to chat about next time? I know we were talking off air about potentially talking about your careers and maybe getting into the building industry for anyone who is interested about swapping careers or has been looking at getting into the industry for a little while. Your tips and your advice for how that all kind of looks. Do you want to chat about that next time?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, let's do that.
All right, see you then.
Nico and Jake from Dornford Building Group, thank you so much, and we'll chat next time.
Awesome.